Good morning, everyone. If there are kids in the room, send them out. They don't want to hear this. The first day of school is just weeks away, and for many, that means it's time to catch up on vaccinations. The state of Mississippi, of course, requires certain vaccines for children first entering school, and then another round for those moving up to 7th grade. Who else do we talk to about this other than our own pediatrician, Dr. Keith Watson? He's here to bring us up to speed on what we need to know. Great to have you, Matt.
Good morning. I hope I can answer all of this.
Well, the first thing is, yes, school is about to start, isn't
Yes,
it?
it is, yes.
So a few weeks away, and there are some vaccinations that are required. Let's first start with children going into kindergarten.
All right.
What do parents need to know there?
So the vaccines that you will get typically are at 4 years of age, and that's for children that are going to be entering preschool as well. Those are standard vaccinations that they got as babies. Whooping cough and polio and tetanus and those. So there's nothing new.
Right.
It's just the updated booster shot of the vaccines that they got when they were last 12 or 15 months old.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So then for 7th graders, rising 7th graders, there is a shot also.
So 7th grade, there is one that is required for school, and that is simply your tetanus, whooping cough booster.
Okay.
Again, a shot you got when you were 4, and you're now due at 11.
Okay. Now there's an optional.
There are 2 other optional vaccines.
Let's talk about those and what they're for.
So one is for a bacteria called meningococcal meningitis.
Yes.
Say that 10 times really fast. Meningitis is a brain infection. Meningococcus is a bacteria that is very common in areas where there's a high concentration of children and adolescents, so school, that type of thing. It is not required in the 7th grade. It will be required when you go to college.
Right.
I got it when I was 18 and went to college. Now they have just moved the booster from college age down to 7th grade because it's an illness that children that age can still get.
And it can be deadly.
It is deadly. There are not many things after doing this for 22 years that scare me. Meningococcal meningitis scares me. I have seen children die from that in less than 48 hours, even with medical intervention. So it's not required. I really don't know why, but it's not. But I usually try to encourage my parents, you're going ahead and getting their tetanus shot. They're going to have to get this before they go to college, typically. You need to go ahead and get it so that your high schooler is protected from this.
And the meningitis is not really something you can see or avoid. I mean, it just happens when it happens.
It just happens. And this particular type of meningitis is aggressive and dangerous, and as if the others aren't. But this one seems to be more so.
All right. A lot of these vaccinations, obviously, you can get at your pediatrician's office. Do you advise people to make appointments for this, or is this a walk-in visit?
Typically, you need a back-to-school exam anyway.
Yes, you do.
Everybody needs to come in, especially children.
Yes.
Height and weights and blood pressure, and make sure they're growing appropriately. Answer any questions mom or dad have. Making sure that developmentally, the 4-year-old looks and acts like a 4-year-old. So we usually recommend get the checkup and make sure everything is good. And while you're there, if those vaccines are due, we can talk about them and get them.
Some of them may have had the opportunity when they may have gone through sports physicals. Is that a good time to do that or no? For sports physicals?
You can do the sports physical and do the shots at the same visit as well. So if this is an 11-year-old kid who's coming in to get his exam for upcoming sports and he needs those vaccines, we can do it then too.
All right. As always, we love your perspective and good information there. Check with your doctor's office to see when you can come in and get those vaccines. Or you can do this, because this is important information. County health departments in Lowndes and Winston counties are going to be hosting walk-in vaccination clinics. So in Lowndes County, you can go to the health department today, as a matter of fact, between 8 a.m. and 3:15. So until 3:15 this afternoon. Then in Winston County, the clinic there will be on Thursday from 8 until 3:30 at the health department. Parents, you can access the immunization form from the provider or through the online portal, MyIR Mobile, on the website. So there you go. Stay with us. We're talking skincare when we come back. All right, we're back, everyone. It is the hottest month of the year, and if you step outside, you know the sun is beating down. Experts, of course, recommend sunscreen, but what type is right for you? Paige Davis is a nurse practitioner and owner at the Glow Bar, a premier med spa. Summer Trong is a Zoe specialist. We're going to find out what all that means. They're here this morning to talk about what you need to do to take care of your skin during the summer months. Ladies, great to have both of you here. I know you have been very, very busy, but I want to get started, if we can, Paige, sort of telling us what the difference between just like a spa and a med spa. What's the difference?
Okay, so my specialty is family medicine. So I do see primary care patients in the clinic as well as offer spa services.
Okay.
So that makes us a little different than just your traditional spa where you may just go get a massage and get some injections. So you can actually see me if you're sick or, you know, just for a regular checkup.
All right, let's talk about sunscreen and protecting our skin. You know, we hear all the time, it was not just during the summer, but particularly because we're spending more time outside. How important is it to protect our skin?
It's very important. As a matter of fact, skin cancer is the most common form of cancer in the United States. It affects millions every year. I think last year the FDA said there was over 7,000 deaths skin cancer related. So it's very, very important.
So sunscreen is like one of the first practical steps that, you know, everybody can take. What's the best kind of sunscreen, or is there a best? Is it just sunscreen?
So there's different sunscreens. Broad spectrum is what you need to look for.
Okay.
And if it's not a broad spectrum, which means that it covers both types of the harmful rays, it has a warning on there that skin cancer is possible because this one doesn't cover. So it needs to be at least a 15 SPF, and just make sure it's broad spectrum. Otherwise, name brand, it doesn't really matter.
All right. You have, I'm sure, lots of people that are coming into the office and asking for these services to help protect their skin. What's the biggest request you have?
Right now, we are really big on the Zoe face creams and everything.
So explain to us what that is, because you're a Zoe specialist.
So Zoe is just our line of skincare that we recommend to all of our patients. Just it's the top of the line, and it's by prescription, but you're able to get it through us as well. So, and it's got more than just stuff for sunscreen. It's for people of all ages, of all skin types, whether you know you're dry or oily or anything like that. And it has everything on there that you could need to just take the best care of your skin.
Well, I like that you say this is something you recommend for all patients. It kind of leads me into the next question. You know, there's a common misconception that it's only white people who need to wear sunscreen or take care of their skin out in the sun, but everybody does. So is there a difference in what, you know, a browner skin person needs to wear versus a lighter skin?
So we know science shows us that if you're fair-skinned, you're more likely to get burnt more. So I think that's where that misconception comes in, but that's not to say you will not get burnt.
Right.
So I would say if you're fair-skinned, I would go for the higher SPFs. If you're darker skinned, you could use the 15 to 30 and be fine. It also depends on the amount of exposure in the sun. No matter what your skin tone is, if you're out in the sun all day, need some protection.
All right. These summer months, younger children, even the babies, you know, families are on vacation, they're at the beach. So what do we need to do to protect baby skin?
So babies are different because it's not recommended to wear sunscreen on babies until they're over 6 months, 6 months and up. So there's sun protective clothing, hats, little glasses. Those are the things we try to shade them.
So when we see the kids out on the beach with their sunglasses, their parents just don't want them to look cool. This is actually helping them.
Yes, it actually helps.
All right, so those are some of the things we can do. And so you said at 6 months we can start applying
6
sunscreen
months.
to babies.
To babies.
Okay.
Yes.
Also, we were talking a little bit earlier about sunspots. You know, as we age, we may start to see sunspots, and you see all these products out there that say that they can erase them or greatly reduce them. Is this true? What can you do in your office?
So yes, you can definitely. I will say they may not ever be completely gone away, but you can improve them. So there's hydroquinone, which is a prescription cream. It's a pigment cream that helps. We offer microneedling, which we do it to the face. A lot of people get self-conscious about sunspots on their face. We can break down the skin, get some collagen in there, and that helps get rid of some of the sun damage that's happened.
But it goes back to what you said, Summer, just using a product that takes care, does everything for your skin is what gets best results, you think?
Yes, and then with Zeo, like I said, there is everything on there that we offer the hydroquinone that will help. It's a topical cream. We have one for your face and for your body. You can apply it and it helps to reduce those sunspots.
All right, so enjoy the time outside in the sun. Try to limit the exposures as best you can, but use the products that work best for your skin. Great information. Ladies, thank you both so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Appreciate it. All right. Heat can also cause problems for people who have diabetes. We'll talk about taking care of yourself ahead on Mid Morning. All right, we're back, everyone. There are new developments in the race to develop a daily pill for people who want to lose weight. In a new study published in the New England Journal of Medicine, researchers found that a daily pill called orforglipron helped participants with obesity lose nearly 15% of their body weight over 36 weeks. And a study released this week found the active ingredient in the popular injectable diabetes drugs Ozempic and Wegovy could be effective in reducing weight then when taken in pill form every day.
All of these medications work by teaching sort of that hormonal axis between the brain and the gut, the way that your brain tells your digestive system, look, you've had enough. It's those hormones that these medications are impacting.
Now, side effects include vomiting, constipation, diarrhea, and burping. Still, experts say the pills in development would be an alternative to those once-a-week injections that are currently available, and they may even cost less. All right, so whether they've been diagnosed or not, an estimated 37 million Americans have diabetes. That's according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And summer can be especially hard on those with the disease, as health experts say diabetes may cause a person to feel the heat differently than someone who doesn't suffer from it. Mandy Gaither talks to a doctor about how to manage diabetes as it's getting hotter outside.
The temperature keeps climbing, and for the millions who suffer from diabetes, the heat is especially hazardous.
Your body sensation and how it metabolizes or interprets the heat, how it responds to heat, really differs in individuals with diabetes.
Dr. Jesse Bracamonte with Mayo Clinic says it's critical to check sugars frequently when it's hot outside. Soaring temperatures can cause episodes of low blood sugar.
If people have well-controlled sugars and they're active during the day, they may find that their sugars drop. Heat actually makes your metabolism speed up and you use a little bit more insulin, and then therefore that sugars may drop.
On the other hand, Bracamonte says the heat can also raise sugar levels if you get dehydrated. He says to drink plenty of water, limit alcohol, caffeine, and other sugary drinks which can lead to dehydration, and avoid going out during the hottest part of the day. When you are outside, dress appropriately with light-colored loose clothing.
Helps your body breathe and really helps to dissipate some of that extra heat that you normally would retain.
Since those with diabetes have to pay special attention to foot health to avoid potential nerve damage or sores, Bracamonte says to not walk outside barefooted this summer.
Heat and the cement and the temperature from the ambient walkway can cause severe damage to your feet, and in some cases put you in the hospital. So appropriate footwear is key.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
The doctor says it's also critical that insulin and diabetes supplies like monitors and sensors not be kept in the heat. All right, it is a fascinating story of murder and family. We'll show you coming up next on Mid Morning. New details in a nearly 40-year-old double murder case uncovered by a pair of podcasters. The victims, Derek and Nancy Haysom, were found stabbed to death in their Virginia home in 1985. Their daughter, Elizabeth, and her then boyfriend, Jens Soring, were eventually arrested and charged. Elizabeth pled guilty to accessory to murder before the fact, and Soring was found guilty on 2 counts of first-degree murder. But when 2 small-town podcast hosts started examining the case, new questions came to light. Nikki Batiste talked to the podcasting team and the man convicted of the crime.
So what's the truth? This is small town, big crime.
Did you ever imagine that this podcast would take on the life that it has?
No, we never dreamed that this podcast would turn into what it turned into. We started thinking that we were just gonna have this fun little side project.
I feel like you definitely had the best relationship with him.
Podcast hosts Rachel Ryan and Courtney Stewart's side project has morphed into 3 years of serious investigative work.
How would you describe the exhaustive investigative work you and Courtney have done?
We have tracked down new witnesses. We were able to collect DNA from 3 possible alternate suspects. And then we spent a year and a half putting together this request and this process to request new DNA testing.
2 DNA experts hired by Yen's team say it shows 2 unidentified men bled at the scene.
With the help of narrator Jacqueline Piermarini, Ryan and Stewart have reinvestigated the case and released their findings on their podcast, Small Town, Big Crime.
This case is in the public eye, and it has continued to be for decades.
The 1985 murders of Derek and Nancy Haysom captivated Virginia. They were found stabbed in their Bedford home.
This is the dining room in here.
Former Bedford County Deputy Chuck Reed was one of the first detectives at the crime scene.
Describe what you saw at the crime scene.
Well, just as you look and step into the front door, Mr. Haysom was lying just inside the living room, just out of the dining room, in a pool of blood. And when you go into the kitchen, Miss Haysom was lying in the kitchen in a pool of blood.
The Haysoms had 6 children between them. Their only child together was their youngest, Elizabeth. At first, there were no obvious suspects, but over the next few months, Elizabeth and her then boyfriend, 18-year-old Yen Soring, came under suspicion.
Elizabeth started to get on police radar when family members reported that she was acting a little strange and saying strange things about the death of their parents. And then they knew that her boyfriend was Yen Soring. They were both students at the University of Virginia.
A few months after the murders, Bedford County detectives asked the German-born Soring to come in for an interview.
What was your impression of Jens when you first met him?
The first thing hit me in my mind and gut, no way. There's no way this little boy did that kind of damage. He was just a little wimpy, little rosy-cheeked little 18-year-old kid. My gut feeling just said, there's no way this young man did that.
When they asked him to give fingerprints and footprints, he declined and said he would come back a few weeks later after his exams, and then that's when he and Elizabeth fled the country.
The young couple spent months on the run using false identities. They were eventually arrested in London about a year after the killings.
Detectives in London arrested them on bank fraud charges. And then when the detectives went back to the apartment where they were staying, they found a travel diary. And in the travel diary hinted at something much worse than bank fraud. And that's when the detectives in London called Bedford County and asked if there was a couple that had been murdered, because they believed they had the killers.
Once in police custody, Soring confessed to killing the Haysoms.
What is Jens' very first account of what happened to the Haysoms?
He said he did it because they didn't approve of his relationship with Elizabeth, and that he murdered them, and that he did it alone.
At trial, Soring recanted and said he confessed to protect Elizabeth, whom he claimed was likely the real killer, from getting the death penalty. He said he believed he had diplomatic immunity.
And he believed that as a German citizen with a father in the government, that he would be sent back to Germany to serve out his sentence. And in Germany, his sentence would have been much lighter.
But he wasn't sent to Germany, and in 1990, Elizabeth took the stand and said she manipulated Soring into killing her controlling parents.
I thought I could help Elizabeth and protect her life, and that I would only spend roughly 10 years in a German youth prison in order to save her life.
Soring spent nearly 30 years in prison, but he and Elizabeth were released in 2019 on parole, but Soring wanted a pardon.
Read something and sign something, right?
He was deported to Germany, where we spoke with him over Zoom.
Did you murder Nancy or Derek Haysom?
Absolutely not.
Over the years, Soring has often appeared in interviews. He's asked for new DNA testing or a new trial to clear his name.
Somebody washed off blood in the showers. This was nowhere in my confession.
He has high-profile supporters like author John Grisham.
We're here to dig through the evidence to figure out what really happened the night Derek and Nancy Haysom were murdered.
With all the renewed attention, in came the podcast team, who wanted to try to settle who killed the Haysoms once and for all.
When we started looking at this case, it was obvious that there was pieces of the puzzle were missing, and we thought the best way to kind of put the puzzle together would be doing additional DNA testing.
Have you been more surprised or not on what you've found?
I think there's been a lot of surprises over the course of this investigation.
All right, stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. A longtime Aberdeen resident and businessman is being recognized for his work preserving historic properties in that city. Allie Martin has more with the Mississippi Main Street hero.
The award was presented during the recent Mississippi Main Street Awards and recognizes Dwight Stevens' efforts to preserve historic commercial and residential buildings in Aberdeen. He started Save Aberdeen Landmarks, which has helped preserve and improve many of the city's historic properties.
Save Aberdeen Landmarks started because we kept having buildings just demolished, and a lot of buildings were torn down and they really didn't need anything but a roof. So we started trying to save them. And our downtown, we had the Kimball Bakery, and it was leaking, and so we asked for a long time for them to donate it to us, and after the roof fell in, they finally donated it to us, and we started a long process of restoring it, and then now we have 3 apartments upstairs and 2 businesses downstairs.
Stevens owns Stevens Auction Company. Last year, he moved the company's headquarters to Main Street. He says renovating historic sites takes a lot of work, but it helps the entire area.
We also have the oldest train depot in the state of Mississippi. We started work on it about in 2008, and we've been operating with grants from different grants, and we have it almost completed, and we hope this year we'll receive another grant, and we'll have it really so we can use it for banquets, and people can rent it, and then they can do conferences there.
Stevens says he appreciates the award, and he also appreciates the support he has received from the community.
Main Street director in Aberdeen, Miss Ann Tackett, she just thought that I should be nominated, and so they told all the things that I've been doing in Aberdeen, and so they thought that I should have the award.
Stevens is hopeful others will invest in historic properties and help bring them back to life. When asked about retirement, he said, "There's too much work to do." Telling your story in Aberdeen, Allie Martin, WCBI News.
All right, and we are all out of time. We will see you back here tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day.